How many downloads of Jim and Bill It's Another Day podcast?
Today, the podcast show has fetched 400 million downloads since its start, and an average of 350,000 downloads per episode, about 3.9 million downloads per week.
Well, hello there. It's another weekend update. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Happy Saturday to you. Well, you know, like I said, on the weekends, they always do the Weekend Friday dump. And this weekend is no different. All kinds of weird stuff.
One of the things I thought would update our audience with is what's going on in the Ukraine and Russia right now. This is interesting. Ukraine's ex-top general and current UK ambassador Valery Zaluzhny has warned that World War III has already begun. That's a quote, has already begun. See, we talked about this yesterday, and I really believe this, Bill. I think the strategy behind the Ukraine right now is they're running out of soldiers. They're running out of people to fight the war. And so they're going to drag NATO countries into the war, and that will solve the personnel problem. They're going to drag the United States, Poland, other NATO countries in. What do you think?
From what I understand, if I read right yesterday or last night, the war has begun. Russia did fire a new type missile, the hypersonic missile, without nukes. They could put a nuke on it, but it can strike fast and sudden anywhere, anyhow, and it's got so much impact to it, potency to it, it'll level the land, kill the people, but not nuke it, so that they can just go in with the bulldozers and bring in the construction crews and burn the bodies, and they take the land.
Yeah,
and
it's called they call it the Hazel, Bill, the Hazel missile.
Mm-hmm.
That's the translation in English. Go ahead.
But did you hear this?
What?
That Putin has said he is going to use it to retaliate against the United States. Mm-hmm. Where and when they will not disclose. So he said it's coming. Retribution is coming.
Well, he also says he has a whole armory filled with these things. Apparently, they've been making them like they were bread. Yeah, they're all ready to go. He said the neat thing about, he didn't say neat, that's me. He said the great thing about these missiles, you don't have to put nuclear warheads on them, because the strength in these missiles is the fact that they can't be tracked and they can't be knocked out of the sky. Mm-hmm. You don't know they're here until they're here. There. Yeah, and see, he said, so the effectiveness of this thing is you can drop a ton of these things on a target, and it won't make the target glow with nuclear radiation, so that when the target is knocked down, they can go in if they had to, and it's just clean up the rubble, and they're all set to go. They have they haven't got that long-term radiation effect,
Mm-hmm. Well, he said he's going to retaliate. So, and that's saying the war is on, and everyone said around him, yeah, the war is on. Don't be surprised when we hit you. And because what he wants to do is we're throwing the word game around, and we let our missiles fly over there. So he's going to sit there and say, okay, you want to rattle a saber? Then you call that a sword? No, this is a sword.
On Thursday, Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, he taunted the West by posting a video of Russia's hypersonic ballistic missile attack on the Ukraine. Medvedev wrote on X, quote, "So that's what you wanted? ? You damn well got it." End of quote. That's what he said.
Yeah, it's basically we're at war.
Yeah.
Now, they've questioned that base in Poland. Brand new.
Yep.
I mean, how safe and secure is that base? The building's on top of the ground. Probably not secure. Did they build stuff underground? Did they dig and they build and they tunnel? I don't know.
Now they're saying in the news that they had authorization to put that base there as far back as the Obama administration. Of course, it only went up or online like 9 days ago. And nobody told anybody about it. It was like a surprise to everybody. So,
well, if it were me thinking, there's probably to drill silos and build underground bunkers, and do it coyly, that might take years.
All
so
right.
there might be more to that base than meets the eye.
All right, question. Biden was asked at a press briefing this week, when do you plan to talk to President Putin? He said, I don't. He hasn't talked to Putin in 3.5 years.
He's not going to.
So my question is, obviously everything that's happening right now has been planned. Is this to destroy the Trump presidency?
Yes.
Is this all political?
Yes. Look, I had also read that there's a new strain of COVID that's on the horizon, and this is a super COVID that we've got to be ready for. What did they do? Now, it's traced back to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, that we were the insidious ones that came up with it. And then we gave it to Wuhan, where they sat there and screwed up and released it all over the place. If it was a screw up, Dr. Fauci, he would know all the real details of it, But we did it.
Now, what about those 40 biolabs in the Ukraine that they have not protected yet? That still have active bioweapons in them.
Well, how do you know that we don't have the new strain of the COVID there? So we go, okay, you hit us with one of those missiles. We self-destruct the labs, but they don't incinerate. They just release the virus into the air.
Well, I mean, talk about then who's the real bad guy? Then who's the real bad guy to do something so sinister?
Well, I wrote a thing the other day. I haven't released it or anything, but it was, are we really the good guys? Why are we the good guys? Is it a matter of, you grow up in a country. We grew up here, so we believe our leaders and we believe the media and what we are being told. But you know what? The guy across the sea, our enemy, is fed the reverse story. So who's telling the truth and who's not telling? Well, we're telling the truth. We are America. We're the red, white, and blue. We're here for justice, Lady Justice.
Here's what I know.
Doesn't always hold true.
This week, Putin said, I would welcome a sit-down and discussion on ceasefire, the topic of a ceasefire with President Trump at any time, meaning he'd sit down with Trump today. That's what Putin said. He didn't say that about Biden. Biden said he has no plans to talk with Putin. And the other question is, if Biden had our well-being as his primary interest, you would think that one of the things he'd be doing right now and would have been doing over the last year is putting together some kind of peace delegation to negotiate peace in that region. Instead, this evil SOB, and that's what I believe he is, he's sending more and more of our money and our resources over there. By the way, so much so that we have actually given the Ukraine stuff that we are now short of ourselves. Supplies that we need for our troops, we have sent to the Ukraine, and now our troops don't have those supplies. So,
amazing.
so we're getting deeper and deeper in a hole thanks to this guy. And this guy just keeps walking around the Amazon rainforest in a confused state of befuddlement. Unbelievable.
Befuddlement.
Yes, I like that word, befuddlement. He did you see him do that, by the way, this week? He said something at the podium. He turns his back and he walks into the woods. It's like, oh my God.
They should have let him keep going.
I guess.
Just, if he's going to wander off all the time, I know that's mean and sick, but the simple fact is
this guy, though, Bill, he's dangerous. He's got his hand on the button. What if he says one day between now and inauguration? Yeah. What if he says that, and then what if one day between now and inauguration day he gets up and says, "I'm sick of that, Putin. I'm going to nuke him." And then he hits the button. What if he hits the button? They would say, well, he didn't know what he was doing. Well, he shouldn't have been in the damn seat.
Well, that's just it. If Trump, who doesn't, he didn't have war in this last term, and he doesn't want war now, but he is ready to sit there and say, if you want war, it'll be a war, but it will be quick. But if Trump, initiated some action, he's crazy, he's insane. That's why we didn't want him there in the first place. Biden trips, and hits the, destroy Russia button, and we go into, total annihilation. Well, he has been the genius of his time, and he'll go down in history as the greatest leader of all time. They were calling him the scariest, stupidest leader of all time during the election. Yeah. And now all of a sudden he's back to, we got to protect his legacy because he's a Democrat.
The people who knowingly put him into office, and by the way, this isn't something which happened over the last 6 months. He's been confused and an embarrassment since day one. Mm-hmm. How this guy got into office, it was rigged. As a matter of fact, I was just reading an article before we started our show today that President Trump is going to ask the Justice Department to do a full investigation into the 2020 election. They don't want this. There's so much that the deep state does not want, because of an honest Justice Department, honest Justice Department does a deep down investigation, a lot of people are gonna go to jail.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I sent you a thing, and it's a long diatribe, too long for us to even do in this show, because you're going, why did, Gates resign? He had to have some dirt.
Oh, I read that
about him. The dirt wasn't about him. He didn't do anything wrong, but he did step into a situation where he was pulled into something that was very evil and dark that he wasn't guilty of.
Something as simple as a selfie picture of him and a couple of guys that he didn't even know. They just were like people who were supporters or politicians or wannabe contributors or politicians in Florida. He just stuck his head into the frame, and all of a sudden that picture comes back to haunt him.
Because of somebody else, and we're talking about stories of ransom, kidnapping, ransom. We're talking ties with Russia. We're talking all kinds of just weird.
Yeah.
If you told the story and tried to defend yourself, you'd be going, "What? This guy is what an idiot!" But then all of a sudden you start reading this thing, and it all goes back to the Clintons' doorstep. And there's a lot of people involved, and a lot of things that you were told that happened one way, but when you see it, wait a minute. That piece of the puzzle belongs to this, and then there's a piece over here that belongs to that. How did all of, it is so twisted and bizarre, but, the simple fact is, all the evidence is there.
Yeah.
He basically had to step down because it's a situation that it would have been a distraction from the job that has to be done.
Now there are a lot of people who are saying, wait a second, was it intentional that he was nominated first? Did Trump know that he was going to be a lightning rod? They did a deep down investigation. Trump's people knew about all of this stuff. Did he put him out there first so that the second person he stuck in there would be an easy process? Do you know?
Well, I think that by doing this, it brought this story to light, to where people are looking at it now going, well, wait a minute now. There's something to this. And it's got so many tentacles to it, folks, that it would be hard to explain. I thought about breaking it down paragraph by paragraph and running it through a program to summarize it to where I could get it down to, 10, 20 pages of stuff down to
you could read to the audience, yeah.
A synopsis of what really transpired, to where you would go, well, that's interesting. Now, you've got to sit there and hear it. Now, the pundits out there, the naysayers, are just going to go, you're making that up. Here you go, lying again. No, we're not. Now, you believe that. You believe that, look, they had therapy sessions. People that, when Trump won, we all saw the news. We all saw that he won the Electoral College, but he won by the popular vote in a landslide. Took a few days, and then the Democrats said, no, we got to go back and recount. We've got more ballots we can bring in. Bring them in, guys. No, keep bringing them in. No, don't check the signatures. Bring them in. Come on. So where they're sitting there going, he didn't win the popular vote anymore. Nope. Got the electoral, but they're still working on that. They're trying to find a way to dismantle.
But now, for like example, in Pennsylvania, they're saying, no, all those ballots that you brought in that didn't have signatures, no, you cannot count them. So now they have to dump all those signatures that they brought in, those ballots they brought in with no signatures. They've got to discount them now.
And that's got to happen in every state. And the popular vote is backed by a landslide. Because for anybody on the left, just remember, it was you. It was you that declared him the winner. We didn't declare it. You declared it. You declared the Electoral College. You declared the popular vote because that was the results. But your powers that be, that you, the guy, your gods, your elected gods, sat there and said, we can turn this around.
Yeah.
You can't turn the truth around. But they were trying.
Well,
so it's going to be hell for the next 4 years.
You see where Bob Casey finally conceded after he didn't want to. As a matter of fact, even in his concession speech, he says something which I thought was interesting. He said, we finished counting the first ballot. Listen.
I just called Dave McCormick to congratulate him on his election to represent Pennsylvania in the United States Senate. As the first count of ballots is completed, Pennsylvanians can move forward with the knowledge that their voices were heard.
Yeah. As the first round of ballots are completed. Somebody pointed this out on one of the cable networks, which says to me, wait a second, as the first round of ballots are completed, does this mean really there's going to be another round of ballots they're going to start looking at? Is this concession speech really a concession speech?
No, it's not. What it is get the cameras off them to where they can go in and they can do a behind-the-scenes forensic without even the Republicans there and say, yeah, we got to take that ballot out. Let's take that one out. Oh, you know what? We can reconsider this ballot. Or can you get someone to sign over here? There, thank you. Yeah, they came in and signed their ballot. And I'm maybe making a little bit of a parody of it, but that's what they're going to do. Do you remember in your lifetime that they used to sit there and get all the ballots counted in one night, and there was no question?
Yes, not too long
What's
ago.
The difference?
Not too long ago. I mean, it was commonplace up until, 2016?
Here's what happened. You got lawyers involved. And see, laws are written not to be absolute because lawyers, no.
It's the interpretation,
Right. Like Bill Clinton. He was the king of it, He's not now.
Well, you're saying
he doesn't sound like
it's whatever the definition of is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He could sit there and speak so eloquently and, polish a pile of poop and make you think that it was a souffle.
Yeah.
And, it was his souffle of sorts, but he was good at that.
I mean, this guy, he was the guy who looked into the camera, one of the first politicians, and say, I did not have sex with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. Mm-hmm. When everybody and their mother knew that he had.
What's really sad, his DNA was on her dress. It's a famous dress. Somebody bought it. It's stained still there. Why you'd want that, I don't know. I guess it is history. But Monica, from your neck of the woods, starts with an S. Sewickley, yeah. From there, because, her brother came on the show when it was in Pittsburgh a few times, but she still goes, Bill Clinton, and she's a diehard Democrat. With all that was said and done, and some of the nasty, evil things he did with her and a cigar, and let's just leave it at that. She's still going, that makes me go, Monica, you didn't make your daddy proud. I'm telling you right now, you did not make your daddy proud.
I have to tell you one thing. Maybe this is just me, right? But Clinton was, in my opinion, the true villain in that case, because she was 23 and he was the president of the United States in his 50s. He was the most powerful man on the planet, and he used his position and power to entice her into doing what she did do. And then, after it was all blown out in the public, that's a poor choice of words, but after the whole country knew what was going on, the country kind of gave Bill Clinton a pass as the years progressed. They kind of said, he's a politician, president emeritus. And all of a sudden he became the elder statesman. In the meantime, Monica Lewinsky, the kid who made a bad choice in a bad situation, she still was demonized, and her life was destroyed for a long, long time.
But she doesn't. She still is loyal to the party and to him. And look, what two people do in their private lives, well, that is their business. But when it becomes public and you're a public figure, now that's a horse of a different color. And the Democrats knew when they ran the guy. Well, if he can keep it in his pants long enough to get in office, he didn't keep it in his pants long enough to get in office. But you know what? He was such a dancer because he's danced all his life. And Hillary was no angel either. So there you go.
He's in the news.
It's a match made in hell.
He's in the news today.
Yes,
he's criticizing President Trump's cabinet picks. And I'm looking at the list of cabinet picks. I have them all right here. He has President Trump has Susie Wiles as the chief of staff, Marco Rubio as the Secretary of State, Pam Bondi is the current Attorney General nominee. Mm-hmm. Deputy Attorney General is Todd Blanche. It goes on and on. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I mean, these are solid people with solid reputations, yet you didn't hear Clinton making any complaints about the choices that Biden made for his cabinet, the wackos that he inserted into government. We're still living with the Tony Blinken decisions. I mean, we're praying to God every day that Blinken doesn't screw us up and drag us into World War III between now and the 20th of January.
I can tell you this: Blinken right now is worried about where he's going to go, and what he's going to do. The people in that State Department, they're all jumping off the ship and taking government jobs elsewhere. I know for a certain reason, and their feeling is, well, this is not how. This is a blank show. This is not how government's supposed to work.
I know.
Well, okay.
Thank God.
And I get that, but look at it from this point of view. You think, all jobs should be secure. A company that's failing, they hire you. They hire you to come in and clean things up. So you go in. I know this from choice, from having taken a job like this. And somebody, came in and said, I've heard those words before. What you're doing here is not the way we do things. It wasn't from the manager or the president of the company. It was from a rank and file guy.
Bill, I've been there.
Been
there.
And they sat there and said, well, this is not how we've done it in the past, and this is not how it's done here. This is how we do it.
That's why they hired me.
Yeah, and that's I came here. You're not making money, and that's going to change. And I did change it. Now, what they do is they go around.
They try to sabotage you.
And they do. I have this thing where pork products, to be honest, it's how it's cured. If you sit there and we go out to dinner and we have some pork, and let's just say the pork wasn't cooked exactly right, you're fine with it. I turn this bright shade of green, and for the next 3 days, I'm heaving my guts out, and it's too late to pump the stomach. I got to make it through the 3 days of hell.
Right.
Well, that happened to me. I went to a famous restaurant, and I got their Italian tri-meat thing, whatever it was called. And I knew as soon as I ate it, I was, oh, man, I'm going to be sick. And that evening I went to a function. They said, man, you're sick. I said, yeah, I'm not feeling good. But I didn't have anybody to come in and do the morning show. I came in to do the morning show. Somebody came in, and they saw me, I was holding a bucket and they took a picture of that and sent it to corporate, to, the president of the company. and it's a famous company that's out there, but the two brothers don't have anything to do with it
So
anymore.
you're saying the employee tried to sabotage you with management?
And say that I was out on a binge drinking all night and that I was in drunk and hungover, which was not the case. But I could have sued the company beyond the sunset, because there was a memo that was floated around. Somebody forgot to take me off the copy list, so I got all of it, and that's how I found out about it. So I confronted him and I said, "All right, do you want to talk to my doctor? Do you have to talk to my attorney? How are we going to handle this?" "It's over." "Okay, you're fine. Yeah, go on." I'm sitting there going, and I was tainted in the company. But this, and I'm telling this as an example, to sit there and say, Trump is going into a hornet's nest. There are people there that are going, "Yeah, you were elected and you want to change this, but we're not going to do that. This is the way we've done things for years. Time for you to go. Bye-bye. Have a nice life."
Here's the thing. The reason why he's picking his cabinet is all of his cabinet members, all of his appointees right
what
now.
What happened last time?
Yeah, he didn't. Last time he was picking them as he was in office, and it dragged out forever. He's going to have his team in place on January 20th, and their mission, I believe, their marching orders are going to be, that whole thing about cleaning out government and cleaning out the waste. We're going to do it now. We're not going to do it in 6 months. By the way, he also, I'm sure, is very aware of the fact that he really only has the House and Senate in his back pocket, so to speak, for the next 2 years. There's no guarantee of having them from year 3 and 4, because that can change with midterms. So,
and it probably will, because things will change and everything along the way. But there are probably some good people that are going to lose their jobs. No doubt about that. But these good people can reapply for different things or for their jobs. But the simple fact is, he's got to go in and make a choice, and he doesn't have time to sit there and roll the dice with you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of people removed from government service. Let's just leave it at that. One of them is Jack Smith, and Steve Bannon was talking about this on his program yesterday. Listen.
Thank you, guys. That's a clip one, but we play clip. No, so Pam Bondi, what she said in the run-up to the election is that you had to go after the prosecutors that came after him. You had to go, and this is McCabe, this is Comey, this is Weissman, this is all the guys over at MSNBC, this is Jack Smith, this is Lisa Monaco, this is Merrick Garland. Yes, she said it, and in confirmation there to ask about it. This is not a witch hunt. This is not revenge. This is not retribution. It has nothing to do with that. You must wring this out of the system. This can never be allowed to happen again. They went after President Trump, and they wanted to imprison him for 20 years. If we had lost him Tuesday the 5th, the next day, Jack Smith, the wise guy, was going to drop a superseding indictment. That's that 168-page report of nothing but a tissue of lies. So, Jack Smith, you've already resigned. You're quitting. I know you're going to try to run back to The Hague, but, bro, you better run to a place that don't have an extradition treaty, because you are not just going to be investigated. Ultimately, you're going to be indicted, and you're going to be tried. Okay? You guys, all you guys put so many people in bankruptcy. What is good for the goose is even better for the gander, and you're going to find out. And they're putting the team over justice today, not for retribution. They're putting the team over justice to make sure we set things right, and this is never allowed to happen again, what happened to President Trump and the people around President Trump in the future. We're going to wring it out of the system. As sure as the turning of the earth. Okay, Johnny.
It's interesting. Steve Bannon, I look at the guy and I think he spent 4 months in federal prison for no good reason, because, with all due respect, he was a political prisoner. He was a political prisoner. So when you hear him talking about how these people had better find a place with no extradition because they're going to go to jail, the Democrats, the first thing they're going to say when we start doing stuff like this, when the bad guys in government start having to pay a price, they're going to say that Trump is being a dictator. Trump is actually putting these people in jail for no good reason. But folks, you have to be clear-eyed about this. You have to stop for a second, take a deep breath. this is not something which is going to be done randomly or without cause. I'm convinced President Trump said, I'm not going to go in and be a dictator and just punish people for the sake of punishing them. He said that. But what he didn't say is he's going to go in there and mete out justice to the bad guys. And don't think for 1 second there aren't a battalion of bad guys in Washington. There are. Besides being the deep, deep state, the guys who really run the system, the evil SOBs who have corrupted our government, the guys who are there from administration to administration, from party to party, they're the constant. They're still there, and they let you know that no matter who you are and what you stand for, they have the power. Those are the guys who are, I think, Trump is going after. And you're going to find out who they are. You're going to find out who they are. You might be surprised. People will say, well, it's probably Obama. I think Obama is the top of the food chain. I think it goes deeper than Obama. You're going to find out who they are, and you're going to be very surprised who the real bad guys in government are. Trump doesn't have, he's not running for any other office. This is it. If he's going to leave a mark, this is the time to do that. And he knows that.
The ones.
Yep. I don't know, Bill. I before I go any further, I almost forgot to mention our
Right Side Coffee.
Yeah, rightsideshop.com.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
If you would do us a favor, please tell your friends to just take a little time out of your day and visit our shop online, rightsideshop.com. We have some T-shirts and sweatshirts and baseball caps and cups, all with neat designs on them. I love the Daddy's Home T-shirt. I mean, it's so appropriate for nowadays. And you can only find it there on our site there. You don't find it anywhere else. And then, of course, we have our brand of coffee, Right Side Coffee, Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee, medium roast and medium decaf roast. And if you would do us a favor, I mean, even if you don't make a regular habit out of buying it all the time, at least buy it once. We have enough people out there who listen to the program. If you take it out of the time out of your day to just buy it one time, it would mean something because, we take a little tiny piece of the profit. We don't get the whole thing, unfortunately, because there's middlemen who do all the packaging and stuff like that and roasting the beans, and they all get a piece of the pie. We're kind of like at the end, but the money we get will go back into promoting the program and trying to build the show. We have a nice audience now. We've built a wonderful audience out of nothing, really. Essentially, it's just been word of mouth, which is a great way to advertise, but that only gets you so far. You really do need to go to the next level of audience and distribution. You need to have some money to promote, and that's what we're looking to build right now. So if you take a moment and do this, think of it as a contribution with a gift at the end, okay? It's like, okay, I like the show, here's a few bucks. You're getting something back in return, all right? We're not just asking for money for your help. We're giving you something back, okay? And it's rightsideshop.com.
Yeah, you can also get like a cup or a hat, and that'll last forever as long as you take care of it. And they're relatively inexpensive. So, and it's a memento. Long after we're gone, 50, 100 years from now, the cup will still be around.
Well,
maybe.
I was just looking at a story, but I was looking at a story while we were talking. California judge strips father of parental rights and greenlights ex-wife to proceed with chemical and surgical castration of their 12-year-old son. There are some sick, evil SOBs out there. I don't know about you. When I was 12 years old, I was just getting used to standing up in front of the toilet. And all of a sudden they're talking about castrating a 12-year-old? For what? What
did he do?
Well, no, it's probably because he thinks he's a girl or something, or some.
Yeah.
When you're 12 years old, you don't even know what the hell you are. You don't know whether you're first base or shortstop. All right, that's That's the fact. People change a lot between 12 and adulthood. And for them to be doing something like this, for a judge to greenlight this, I don't know. And the father doesn't want it. The father doesn't want it. He wants his son to have time to grow and think and to mature. And the mother obviously wants Junior to be
a little girl.
Yep. A miss.
So he'll never be a little girl. Sorry, Mom, but it just didn't work that way.
And
you want a little girl, try again. That's what you got to do. But you know what? Be thankful for the blessing God gave you. A nice young man there, and that's just the way it is.
You do a castration on a little boy, and there's no reversing it. It's done. It's finished. Right. It's not like you can say, "Oh, he's 15 now. He really changed his mind." No, it's finished.
Yeah, we put it in cryogenics. We froze it. We'll bring it back out, thaw it out, and put it back on him. Yeah, that's not going to work.
I don't think so. I want to play a couple of cuts, so I think you'll find interesting. We had a real sea change during this last election. A real sea change. I mean, everyone was saying, up until the day of the election, I heard interviews where people were saying in the news media, like CNN and MSNBC, well, yes, but, the polls say that Kamala's leading, and it looks like Kamala has the advantage right now. They were selling Kamala like you wouldn't believe. I mean, and it was a blowout, folks. Scott Jennings was talking about, well, first of all, let's play Adam Carolla. Adam Carolla tried to explain to one of his friends why progressivism is an overreach and doesn't work. Listen.
It's called a progressive movement. And if you take progressive and movement, it means it just keeps going. They never pump the brakes. They go, and it's an interesting ruse, I guess I would call it, but it's also it has an interesting sort of psychodynamic to it. Like, it always starts with something reasonable. You go, why shouldn't a gay couple be allowed to marry so they could have the same rights and privileges, insurance and stuff, whatever. And then people like us go, yeah, okay, that kind of makes sense. And it takes a little while, and then they get it. And then our head on it is, well, that's what they want, and they've been agitating a lot, and give it to them, and then we can move forward, and we won't have to argue about this thing. And then they go, well, what's wrong with a little trans story hour, And you go, what is that again? Well, that's the transvestite reading Hop on Pop to 6-year-olds at the public library. And you go, oh, no, I don't. Oh, you're not down with the movement, are you? And I'm like, no, I'm for gay rights. We're thinking about trans kids, getting healthy breasts cut off when they're 13 and taking puberty blockers. And you're like, no, I'm not. And they go, oh, interesting. I didn't know you were homophobic and bigoted, And you're like, what is going on? Well, what's going on is they keep going. They don't stop. America stops. America goes, gay rights, good. Love who you want. Get married. Have the same privileges heterosexual couples have. But then you get Dylan Mulvaney taking pictures in the Oval Office with Biden, and America goes, I don't know about that. That's a little too far. And they do it with everything. They do it with immigration. They do it with everything. It always starts off with something where you go, well, what's wrong? So let's see someone's being politically persecuted in Guatemala, like tortured by the federales. Shouldn't they be able to come here and seek asylum? And you go, yeah, that sounds reasonable. I'd like to say that's the kind of nation we are. And the next thing you know, it just turns into migrants and illegals living in hotels in New York and being bussed in and everything else. And so they don't stop. Now, what they do, and what you saw Kamala Harris do, is they understand most of America is not down with this. So 5 years ago, there's lots of talk about her defunding ICE and transgender surgeries for prisoners and ending fracking. And now they focus group They test that stuff and they go, okay, America doesn't like this. So then she goes, okay, I have to pretend like I'm not for that stuff anymore because now I need America's vote. It's also an interesting thing. All these things they changed their politics on. Biden does it a lot. Kamala Harris was 55 when she said all that shit. You know, she was a young, bright-eyed kid, still fresh with idealism right out of school. She's 55. She had a hysterectomy. And then she said no more fracking. Do you think you change your opinion on stuff from 55 to 60?
Nobody believed him, man.
No, right.
Nobody believed it.
Adam Carolla on a podcast, and pretty good observation. I think he's right on. Brian Williams, remember Brian Williams? Used to be an anchor on NBC Nightly News, and then he went over to MSNBC. He had some thoughts on one of the talk shows about why the Democrats have got to change their whole direction. Listen.
It did feel like the Democratic Party under Joe Biden did a lot of things for working class voters. Certainly inflation was a giant issue. Messaging as well. Do you feel like they just failed to message what they had done for and had planned for the economy?
It is tough love time for the Democratic Party. I think it needs to be stripped down and rebuilt. I think that means a change in leadership. I want to know who thought it was a good idea that Joe Biden stand for another 4 years at 80 years of age and 37% popularity. So then that saddled the party with a British-like short campaign season for them. I think it's insulting when members of the working class, which the Democratic Party has lost entirely in our lifetimes, to insist the economy is doing great. A 12-pack of Bounty is $40. Rich folks don't feel that. Poor folks already switched to Sparkle during the COVID, during the lockdown. And I think telling them that the NASDAQ is gangbusters is further insulting. It's insulting. I think the biggest unforced error of the Biden administration by far was the border. To tell people it's not a problem is insulting. For the working class to see incoming migrants getting welcome bags, debit cards, and motel rooms is probably insulting as well. So there's a lot of work to do. You know, it was when they handed out camo hats that said Harris Walls, and the Democrats they were kind of charmed by that. Their party has gone quinoa, and the rest of America's eating at Cracker Barrel. And so it was kind of an ironic use of something millions of Americans put on their heads to start their day every day.
He's right, but I happen to like Cracker Barrel, so and I don't think that's like terribly cheap place to go. I would have used, for example, maybe McDonald's, as an example. Everyone's going to these high-end restaurants, and the rest of America is going to Burger King. But Cracker Barrel is nice. I like it. They have a nice salad too. But anyway, other things. Did you hear about Joy Reid? Someone's got to get her phone and her X account closed. She's crazy on MSNBC, but she's downright nuts when she does her posting on the internet. She was talking about how she thinks that if your relatives and friends were voting against what you believe in, and she of course is a lunatic liberal, then you don't have them over for Thanksgiving. Don't have Thanksgiving with them. Listen.
Yeah, well.
People are rightfully alarmed. They have a reason to be alarmed. And if you would vote for that, people may not feel so confident that they're safe with you. This is not crazy. This is legitimate feelings of fear of you and a feeling that you might not be someone they could trust. If this thing goes way south, autocracies go south real fast, and things get ugly, and people get asked to do things and turn people in and point people out and turn on them. And if you're voting affirmatively, gleefully for this, people may not feel so confident in you anymore. That's real, and you kind of have to live with it. So if you think that you can vote for what people see as their destruction and then demand that they still are cool with you and kiki with you and have Thanksgiving with you, like, I think you're kind of missing the point of what people are upset about. They're afraid. And autocracy and fascism are things that are legitimate to be afraid of. So you may want to step back.
You know, this is a woman who's making millions of dollars a year for no good reason, and the problem is, and if it wasn't for the fact that she had a program on a major cable channel in the U.S. that goes coast to coast and had a platform, I would actually feel sorry for her because she sounds like a lunatic. I mean, she's first of all, if you see the video of her, she's talking in a low voice like she doesn't want anyone else in the house to hear her. And she's talking about how the whole world is on the brink of going insane with this Donald Trump person who may want you to turn in your friends. And Trump has never, ever in his entire political career, by the way, he's been president for 4 years before, he never said, I want you to turn in your neighbors. I want you to squeal on your neighbors. If they voted against me, I want to know who they are. He never did that, But this woman, she must live in such isolation in New York that she just talks to people who are as crazy as she is.
Irrational paranoia.
Yeah, she must be isolated and ignorant of what the rest of the world is all about.
Yeah. No basis, no fact to any point that she has made in her entire little essay there. She might want to go get a wellness check to make sure she's not of harm to herself or anybody else.
Did she sound, to me, she sounded nuts. I mean, I thought, my God, you have a Harvard degree. You are making more money than some towns generate, and yet you're sounding like you're the oppressed, and that the big bad Trump man is going to come to your door. I don't think he cares about you.
He's not a dictator, not living under dictatorship. I mean, nobody's going to come. Joy Reid, hands forward, please. We're here to take you away. It's not going to happen. It's not happening. It's not been talked about. Where you're getting this from is where you get your. Oh, you are one of the news people. Do you guys have a paranoia group meeting here? Not paranormal. Well, I guess it would be too, because the things you guys are spewing is from outer space.
Yeah, they really are. But the thing is, folks, what she and people like Joe and Mika and other people have done on MSNBC is they've taken a brand, and they've done so successfully. I'm sure they didn't do it intentionally, but they have taken a brand and literally destroyed it. Now you say, what do you mean destroyed it? Well, this week it was announced that the parent company, Comcast, is getting rid of all their cable products. Their cable products really are CNBC and MSNBC. They're gone.
Oh, yes. And what we talked about, I guess, was touted to by one of Trump's sons to Elon, and Elon is actually going, I might just buy MSNBC.
His response was, how much? Like, he actually was
he's considering it.
Yeah.
You know what, though? In their desperation, but in their stupid pride, they probably wouldn't sell it to him. Oh, Michelle Maddow. Rachel Maddow. I always call her Michelle. Rachel. She's taken a 7-figure pay cut because of her ratings.
But you know how much she's going down from? She's going from $30 million to $25 million. To $25 million.
Yeah, it was $40 million, but now she's 25?
Yeah.
All right, so what?
I don't know how she's going to be able to do her groceries.
Oh, I don't know. And, getting up that one day a week to go do a show.
Oh, my God.
$25 million.
I mean, folks.
I wouldn't do it. Rachel, you should stay at home and bite your nails and pull your hair out.
Now,
and then when you're bald, you can come back and, she could come back and, never mind, I'm not going to say
whoever buys that network, if I were considering buying the network, I would say to Comcast, yeah, we'll buy it. We'll give you this much money.
You fire them.
But you got to fire them and you got to pay them off. You made those deals with those ridiculous talent, and if they have buyouts, if they have payouts that you have to make at the end of their contract for something like this, I'm not paying for it. You got to pay for it. So, and I think that's probably what they're going to do.
I would, if I were buying that, I would sit there and say, I'm buying the name, the shell, the studios. I'm not buying the people, because I'm going to turn it into a comedy network and make fun of you guys, or whatever it is. I don't need your people. I don't need your infrastructure. I don't need your billing department. I don't need your salespeople. I don't need squat, from you guys, except for the name.
If I owned MSNBC, I would turn it into, if I were Elon Musk, I'd make it MSNBX, and I'd have it be a supplemental cable network to his X platform, where one helps the other, one promotes the other. Maybe have programs where if you put a video up on X and it's really good, then it finds its way
there.
Yeah, it finds its way over to MSNBX. Let the people that post be the actualities of the newscast that you do, and you can have opposing views as long as they're not really out in space. But let it be a real voice, and people. That could be a name of name of a show.
Real Voice.
No, Opposing Views.
Yeah, Opposing Views.
Yeah, and that could be on. But folks, don't expect too much. Cable does have its problems. I mean, their numbers generally are diminishing, and platforms like X and Truth are taking off like you wouldn't believe. Rumble is taking off. If anyone ever took the censorship off of YouTube again and let people be free to speak, it would be astronomical. But it's still being controlled by Google. Go ahead.
Yeah, you got YouTube, but then Facebook. What the hell is going on with them? Now they're doing video reels, and it's all Chinese girls in their underwear, spreading their legs. And I'm like going, this is social media? This is what America wants?
I get invites on Facebook right now from people, young people, usually Asian, women,
robots,
who I have never seen or heard from before, and their friend requests. And with all due respect, I turn them down all the time. Because
I do that too. And if you look at their history, they got one page of post.
True.
And if they go back a month, that's really amazing.
Yeah.
But every single one of them, here they are posing by a big spread dinner, all this gourmet food. And I'm like going, all right, the people I know, they don't eat that. And they don't do that. I mean,
listen, if you don't know somebody, or if they aren't a close friend of somebody you know very well, odds are you shouldn't friend them on Facebook, because you're letting a stranger into your information. And not that they can't get it already, but and I'm not really sure exactly why they do that, but there has to be a reason for it. It has to unlock something, because they're doing it like you wouldn't believe now. If Zuckerberg really was a man of honor, he would say to his people, "Stop that."
Let me ask you a question.
You can go after conservatives on our platform and give them a lot of problems. You can at least go after the pornographers out there who are trying to spread their glee. Go ahead.
Let me ask you a question. Elon Musk, he owns the X, right?
Yeah.
And he has an account, and he posts all the time. The liberals like to blast him.
Right.
All right. And Zuckerberg owns Facebook. Does he post anything? Does he?
I've never seen it. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have one.
Yeah, a locked out one, but he doesn't. So, for argument's sake, he probably has one just to say he has one,
right.
The master account, but he doesn't post. He doesn't use his own damn site. If you owned an automobile company that made, either if it's the working man car or a big, beautiful, shiny sports car, wouldn't you own a version of that car?
Sure.
And drive it regularly?
Absolutely. Yep.
Because otherwise you're not standing behind your product. So
right.
What is he afraid of from his company And I'm asking, not him directly. I'm asking you. I'm asking the question so that if you're, we use Facebook. I use it. I promote the show and to people. I used to sit there and do free exchanges of stuff. Every once I'll throw something out there, but I really don't, engage anymore because I don't know what's out there. And like I said, the porn that's showing up on this thing, unless you're some 18-year-old young teenage boy,
with racing hormones.
Yes. With racing hormones. He might be 12. I don't know. But the simple fact is, why are you putting that crap on there? Or is Facebook at a point to where its useful purpose has expired and you're grabbing at straws, to go where I would it's gone before.
If these companies like Facebook and YouTube, if they ever drop this censorship thing, it would be such a breath of fresh air. I point to X. X dropped all that nonsense, and people gravitate to it because they know that they're going to get a fair deal from Elon Musk and his people. They're going to give, they may not agree with everything, but at least they're not going to be suppressed, When I used to promote our program on a daily basis on Facebook, but now I put a simple message out there to people who know the show, who say another episode's up there. Search the website and go to it, and there it is. Because you start putting links and stuff, and it triggers Facebook to block you and to criticize you. Mind you, we don't do anything on this program that we would not have done, for the most part, on a radio station in my whole career. If I did a talk show on a 50,000-watt radio station somewhere in this great country, not too long ago, and I could take our tapes that we run for the most part and put them on those 50,000-watt stations because we adhere to certain guidelines, and we do it almost naturally because we've been trained that way in the business. I spent 50 years in broadcasting. 50-plus years in broadcasting, if you really must know. But
really?
Yeah, I was 12.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know. But the fact of the matter is, we learn professionalism, and it kind of irritates me when I hear these young pups who really have no training in broadcasting with their podcasts out there dropping the F-bomb like it's no big deal. Sometimes you'll hear it on some of our actualities because we can't cut it because it takes away from the meaning of the actuality. Sometimes you'll hear us on our show play a cut that has something in it we really wouldn't say ourselves, and it's because it wasn't said by us. It was said by a character that we wanted you to hear, and for us to edit that out would have changed the meaning or the presentation of what they were saying, so we leave it in. That's kind of a stretch, but we do, for the most part, do a program that is playable and presentable on any radio station in the country. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we're almost done. I'm looking at the clock on the wall, and let's see. There's so many things to talk about. Over the weekend, keep your eyes on Russia and the Ukraine folks. This is a deadly situation. Like we said at the top of the show, they've essentially said on the Russian side that we're at world war now, and that even targets in the United States or owned by the United States are viable targets now. Now, I can only hope that they still mean what they said a couple of days ago about how they'd like to sit down and talk peace with Trump. And
Kim Jong-un said no. Now that he's got a nuke that works, he doesn't want to talk. Now he says that. He says that now. He can talk big.
I think that they asked Donald Trump Jr., has your dad talked to Putin in the last few days? And he was evasive. He didn't say yes or no. He kind of said, like, well, I know as much as you do, or, which is a lot of nonsense. If my dad was the president-elect and I was in the same building as him, I would know basically what he's doing. But I got a feeling that, there are some negotiations going on right now. And I know as a fact that Putin is aware that in 58 days, there's going to be a new sheriff in town, and everything. Now, someone said something which is interesting yesterday on one of the talk shows, and it's true. I think it was one of the generals. Anyway, they have so many contributors on these networks, you forget. But he made a good point. He said, when Trump does this, when Trump negotiates with Putin, he's got to be careful. He cannot negotiate from weakness, and he cannot let Putin think that he will acquiesce to everything that Putin wants. Trump has to maintain leverage. He has to maintain balance in negotiations.
Which Biden has given away.
Well, Biden is not negotiating at all.
No, he's not. But he's playing out, the hand. How do I put this? Basically, what he's doing is he's backing Trump into a corner with the hand that he's playing, which is, and it's going to leave Trump very few options. Trump's just going to have to go in and be Trump.
What amazes me is that Biden doesn't care about you or your family or your friends or your life. He doesn't. Do not think for 1 second that senile SOB in the White House right now cares about you and your family. Because a good man wouldn't put our country, our great country, in unnecessary jeopardy. He wouldn't do it. A good and decent man wouldn't put us on the blade of danger like this guy has done.
But the media is selling you that what Joe is doing is right. And, one thing, by asking Trump's son, has he talked to Putin? Well, number one, if he has and his son knows about it, it's not his son's place to say anything about it, nor would it be yours if you're an advisor or anywhere in the hierarchy in the Trump universe, even if I knew. It wouldn't be my place to say anything.
Right.
The only reason you would ask that question is to sit there and cause, some disruption.
You take away leverage. Well, we talked about it this week about some whistleblower in the Trump transition team who was leaking stuff. And Elon Musk got into a shouting match with Boris Epstein at Mar-a-Lago this week because Musk said that Epstein was leaking to the press, and of course Epstein denied it, and that could have been staged too. By the way, I was thinking about that. There's so many things going on here. They may want you to believe that it's Epstein. They may want you to think there's a riff. These people, there's a whole art to this that the average person is unaware of. These people,
the deal.
You and I were. That's exactly right, Bill. You and I were
rewriting it.
You and I were talking about the fact that there's a possibility that they wanted Pam Bondi as the Attorney General all along, and that they got Matt Gaetz to do what he did intentionally, so that he would draw all the incoming on him, take all the incoming away from Pete Hegseth, and then he would resign at a key moment, and Pam Bondi would just slide right in, and there she is,
I'm traveling tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to have the time, but I may try to take that thing I talked about, because the one thing Gaetz has is that the when you unravel the web of everything that's going on there and get to all the tentacles that are there, it really is a tentacle of the tentacles of an octopus. But when you unravel all of that, the story is deep, and it's got a lot of people tied to it, and it could ruin your perception of what has happened since the Clinton years all the way through. And you will see because it not only has the Clintons in there, it's got the Bushes in there and the Obamas, and all of a sudden, you have and you have different foreign entities in this thing. It's pretty evil and twisted.
Well, I was talking earlier in the show about how Bill Clinton is criticizing Trump's nominees, and I thought to myself, why would he, after all these years, now Clinton has come out and he's public again, and he's saying how these people aren't right for the job and stuff, And I was thinking maybe it's because he's nervous that the hammer is going to fall on his family, the people in his family for what he's done.
If you were hiding something so evil, so dark, so dirty in your house, and they were coming to investigate, and they were going to find it, would you not burn that house down?
Yeah. Well, you wonder whether Biden's doing that with the United States. Does he consider us his house? Does he figure, if you're going to get me and my family, I'm going to take the whole country with me?
Well, okay, the house. It's a house that Obama's resided in. Who now people don't even listen to Obama. He can show up at a rally and nobody cares. Clinton, nobody cares. But we'll care when we know about what happened and what happens. It's already been revealed. I think there was a story the other day that came out with all the details on the CIA's involvement with, John F. Kennedy. That things weren't exactly what history has told you, and your suspicions.
There is speculation that is floating around the internet right now that Trump may be in office sooner than the 20th of January.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they could do that. I don't know how that could happen. There is talk that there's some litigation is out there that has been floating around for years that may actually come to, it may be the Brunson case. Remember the Brunson case?
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, that has faded away. It's been rejected several times.
But they never gave up on it. It's always been out there.
Yeah, they have never given up, and they've continued to pursue it. And apparently there's been headway that the media just doesn't talk about. It doesn't acknowledge this.
Right, and basically what the Supreme Court was doing is saying, no, we're not going to hear this, but we're not going to dismiss it away. They hear it, but they're saying, no, you've got to. Basically, they're walking them through the process to get it to the point to where they can legally tackle it in a way that the public will understand and accept.
Now, this is interesting. If you don't know who these are a bunch of brothers. Now they're in their middle age. They were a family of trumpet players, these guys, and when they were younger, when they were young boys, they went around and toured. They were on the Ed Sullivan Show and all this stuff, and they are quite talented, but they're conservative.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also, I'd probably say they're more libertarian than conservative. They thought that 2020 was an injustice, and they, not being lawyers, one of the brothers sat down and they started to figure out how would they pursue this to bring it to the Supreme Court. And he put together briefs and presentations, and they were presented to the Supreme Court. And like Bill said, the Supreme Court would deny it, but kind of nudge them in another direction. So they knew, okay, it's been denied by the Supreme Court, but maybe if we do this, they'll take another look at it, right? So I stopped paying attention to this about a year and a half ago. It's like, oh, come on, that's not going to go anywhere. And many people will say, well, what good is it now? It's about rectifying 2020. We've already had 2024. Well, I mean, it might mean that they come to a conclusion that this guy who's in office now should never have been in office. Maybe it'll keep us from going to World War III. I'm just saying, Maybe it'll mean that Trump, who should have been in office, will be given an early start. Or maybe there'll be an interim military or some kind of appointed system put in place to keep everything in order until January 20th. I don't know, but this...
Well, I mean, look...
It's going around, folks. Go ahead, Bill.
Democrats are sitting there going, oh, yeah, Trump gets in, there's only going to be one leader, will never be in again, which is what they wanted. But unfortunately, if the evil is so deep, bad, and dark, there could be a period to where things don't quite go the normal flow. I mean, it's how quick can we put the country back together if what I'm saying is right, that, there has been an evil force at play, and it was stolen, and we've got to right the ship and weed out the government. I mean, look, I've got a family member that's inside of the State Department, and they're leaving, and because they're preserving, and they're a good person. But that doesn't mean everybody's a good person.
Right.
And it does, so I'm kind of walking on eggs here.
I think the Brunson case, one of the results, if it goes their way, the change, the United States became a corporation in 1878, and I guess what would happen is the corporation would be dissolved, and instead of him being the 47th president of the United States, Trump would be the 16th or the 17th president of the United States. I mean, it's
everybody was illegitimate.
Unbelievable as it may sound, folks. There's stuff going on that we're not aware of. Okay, I'm not saying this is going to happen by any stretch.
Here's a question. If something like that per se were to happen, all right, let's just look at the other side of the coin, and that we had an illegitimate government in place way back then. Now, whether these guys were, thought they were duly elected or not, and the people there with the policies that they made, would they all be void and moot because it was under false?
I mean, it would change. It would change everything. It would change even Congress. The people who were elected to Congress, they were elected to.
Well, you can't go back and do it again. But everything that they've done would have to be erased.
I don't know. I would imagine that the Supreme Court in their decision-making may be able to rectify that problem by saying that they understand.
You would have to neutralize certain things. You couldn't, there are a lot of things that were done that are great. There were some things that you could arguably say, well, I don't know, that might have been a mistake. But then again, it depends on who's arguing. But I think you'd have to sit there and say, probably for the better, unless something is really out of whack and everybody believes it, you take that out. Otherwise, you're just going to have to go back. But that leaves everything, that puts everything back on the table.
All right, here's what we know, folks. We know this just from observation on the sidelines, that for no good reason, our government is pushing us as a country towards a nuclear war with Russia.
Mm-hmm.
We know that as a fact. That isn't something made up. That isn't something Bill and I speculate on. But you have to ask yourself, what rational person would be doing this? Why? Why are we doing this? And you have to wonder, is it because something so massive is happening behind the scenes? They truly expected, the people in government truly expected that once again they could control this election cycle and they could bring their person, Kamala. They thought that they were so cocky about it that they could take this inept person out of nowhere and not have her run for anything, just appoint her as the nominee and stick her in office. And you know why they thought this, in my opinion? Mm-hmm. Because they took somebody who was inept and incapable back in 2020. A guy who
do it again.
A guy who was senile. We took a senile old guy and we made him president so we could get him to do anything we wanted. So
gave him his wish.
Exactly. So that's exactly right. His lifelong wish was to be president. We'll make him president, and then we'll tell him to go sit in the corner, and we'll run the country. Now he can't run anymore because he's obviously just too demented. Well, look at. Let's take Kamala. We'll take anybody. We could take the janitor. We'll take Kamala. Yeah, and she looks good in a dress, and she has a nice giggle, and we'll make her the candidate. And they were sure that with all of their power and authority and resources, they gave her $1 billion, folks. $1 billion to run her campaign, and she still ended up $20 million in debt.
But they're saying that they'll run her again in 2028, but there may not be a 2028 the way that they think there is. But right now, you woke up the other morning to hear, well, that landslide didn't happen. And the electoral vote could maybe go the other way, because what are they doing? They're backroom counting again, and they got stopped in Pennsylvania, but they're still backroom counting.
I get the sense that they know that they're done. They're done. It's a.
Then they got to blow it all up.
Then that's exactly what they have to do. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, we've just dotted the I's, crossed the T's, that we will be going to war unless somebody can, come in quickly with something that stops it. But then I can tell you right now, we will go into a civil war and unrest because the liberals, the Democrats out there, they believe, they've been told, and they've been preached to, that they are on the side of justice, and they're willing to pick up their torches, their pitchforks, and whatever they got, and come on, I'll take you on, because you're a communist. And they need to go take a good look in the mirror.
Well, folks, it's Saturday, and we'll be back on Monday. Mm-hmm. A lot can happen in this day and a half. A lot can happen. Pray for our country. Pray for cooler heads to prevail. And I do think, by the way, the good news is, and I truly believe, you notice how quiet Trump has been over the last week and a half or so?
Amazing, isn't it?
This is a guy who has been out in front of everybody almost every day for the entire election cycle, and yet all of a sudden he's very quiet and he's off the scene, and it's because, in my opinion, first he knows he's a target, so they're keeping him in a safe location. They have him protected very well. But secondly, he and his people they're working. They are working. I don't know the man. I do respect him immeasurably. Okay? And I think he's truly a patriot in every definition of the word. He is a patriot. He's fighting for our country. You don't like his personality? Fine. It'll be. I was thinking about this too. I hear people say, "Oh, I don't like his memes. I don't like." You would not have liked a lot of our other presidents. We had a lot of presidents in the past who you never really knew them because they didn't have social media back then, who were foul-mouthed, who were rude, who were crude, who were not the kind of people you would even want to have dinner with. And these were presidents, okay? So I'd love to have dinner with President Trump. If you're listening, sir, I'm an older guy, so you'd have to accommodate me a bit. But hey,
you like McDonald's,
and I do love McDonald's. Look, I tell you what, Mr. President, if you invite me and my wife down to Mar-a-Lago, we'll bring the McDonald's. All right, we'll buy the McDonald's. That might work for you. And
it works for me. I mean, I'd love to go too.
We'll take you too. You and a guest down to Mar-a-Lago. Mr. President, would love to see you, just to pat you on the back.
Not going to hold my breath for that phone call.
No, I'm going to wait around. I'll be here. Your people can find our number.
Oh, you can find mine. Yeah, it's all over the place.
Yeah, my wife has had my number for 50 years. But anyway, that's a whole other story. Anyway, we've just about done it. A reminder, rightsideshop.com, if you would, rightsideshop.com. Look at our stuff and buy our coffee, Right Side, Jim and Bill's Right Side Shop. Coffee, medium roast and medium decaf. Portions of the proceeds go to benefit the program and so we can promote it and keep it growing. We thank the 4 million people a week who listen in. You are amazing. I love you. Bill loves you. You give us a reason to get up every morning to do this program because we know you are there. And we so appreciate it, no matter where you are. We have a large segment of people who listen in Great Britain. I love Great Britain. We have people in Canada, people in Australia, people in Russia who listen. We have people in Germany and France and Sweden. I mean, Africa. We have people in Africa who listen. I don't know how you found us. We know you keep coming back, and we truly appreciate you doing so. And I think that's about it. By the way, Juan and Jose, I know they're crying because I've ignored them. Come on, one more time with the jingle just to make us feel good.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Marvelous. Marvelous. All right,
good guys.
You have the day off. We'll see you Monday, all right? Hey, folks, that's it. I'm done, Bill.
Yeah. Oh, I mentioned earlier all these liberals are going to see their therapist, which I guess if you're a young person trying to figure out a career to go into, maybe, being a therapist, a shrink might be a good idea. But I'll leave you with this thought. Because of all the Democrats that are going to see their therapist, just keep this thought in mind. Somewhere out there's a therapist who knows all about you. knows all about Jim Harrington and Bill Knight. You know, because somebody's spilled your name all over the place.
That therapist will be bored with my life.
Well, not after a Democrat gets talking about you. Oh, you know what he did the other day? And yesterday he said, and the week before that, he made my life shit. With that, I'll say, hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.